I'm one of those people who's very, very interested in this subject, life on the planet. You understand that today, life on the planet is in a little bit of trouble. And we're the cause of it.
That's right.
There have been, if I remember correctly, 6 extinction-level events on the planet since life began. I mean, 6 times. Large portions of life. Not human life we're talking. We're talking just life. Gone, destroyed. But we're headed for another one.
Imagine this. One of the greatest actors of our time, Morgan Freeman, steps onto the stage of The View. A Hollywood icon, a voice everyone knows, a man who's seen decades of change in the film industry and the world. You'd expect a thoughtful conversation, something deep, something worth remembering. But what happened instead? A total disaster. The stage was set for something powerful. Freeman was there to promote his new Netflix documentary, Life on Our Planet, a series exploring the epic history of Earth and the dramatic rise and fall of life over billions of years.
Well, it's tenacious if we would just leave it alone. Leave it alone. And the human interruption of all of that is what's causing all the problems. I hope that it's not too late. But let me ask you this, Jim. Seeing the rise and fall of all these species, because some are coming in too, right? And many are leaving the planet. Did that change your perspective on life?
My perspective on life, I don't think it changed my perspective. It just enhanced it. Because for a long time now, I've been listening to what they say about, I drive an electric car.
But The View managed to do what it does best: take a rare opportunity and completely wreck it. The hosts ignored the gravity of Freeman's project and instead flooded the short segment with off-topic chatter, empty questions, and awkward attempts at hot takes. Instead of leaning into Freeman's brilliance, they veered off course, missing every single chance to bring real insight to their audience. What's worse? They ended the segment way too soon. Just as things started to get interesting, they cut him off with a rushed, "We're out of time." Like he was some background extra, not the main guest.
I want to ask you about a different documentary.
Go ahead.
As some politicians around the country try to erase Black history, you're making sure people don't forget vital parts of our past, including this documentary that you executive produced called 761st. Did I get that right? Yeah, 761st Tank Battalion, the original Black Panthers, about the first Black battalion to fight in World War II.
First Black Armored Battalion.
Yes, and you served in the Air Force. I know that. This film was then very personal to you.
Oh, yes, having start in the 40s and move up. And how many times did I see Black people in the movies? And if I did see them, what were they doing?
There were servants. They were always. I know it's appalling.
I can give you the name.
If you watch old movies, Betty Davis movies are particularly, even though she's great, and
it's the period.
It's not her
time
fault.
That
It's
the
the
movies
period.
were made.
It's upsetting to watch. Tell you the truth.
It shouldn't be that way because somebody did make money.
It was uncomfortable to watch, like watching someone try to microwave filet mignon. By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now let's continue.
That's the time. Now look at today, things we're always in flux. Always.
But we've always been here. Fluxing out.
Flux. Exactly.
I had a question, but we run out of time. Listen, this is extraordinary, this documentary.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
So what was Morgan Freeman actually there to talk about? His Netflix documentary, Life on Our Planet, and let me tell you, this wasn't your typical doom and gloom climate piece. This series dives into Earth's massive timeline, exploring how life has survived catastrophe after catastrophe. We're talking about 6 extinction-level events before humans even existed. And Freeman? He brought this story to life with calm, thoughtful narration, reminding us that Earth doesn't end with every crisis it evolves. But The View wasn't interested in any of that depth. They had the perfect setup, a legendary guest, with a serious message about life, nature, and survival. And instead of digging into that, they turned the conversation into a circus. The chance to explore Freeman's perspective on the Earth's future got buried under shallow side remarks and strange segues.
I don't think there is an issue of race in Hollywood. Somewhere back there in the 70s, the decision was made by almost all and sundry that we have to start open casting. Now, if you look on television, you pretty much see the range of cultural, that's not the right word because we all belong to the same culture. We just, anyway, but you see everybody. And I think that Hollywood learned in the 70s, oh, here's reality. Isaac Davis directed a movie called Cotton Comes to Harlem. It made hundreds of millions of dollars. And of course, Hollywood is colorblind. It only sees green.
It was like asking Einstein to come on your show and then spending the entire time asking him what shampoo he uses. Freeman wasn't rattled. He stayed cool, tried steering the conversation back to the science. He explained that while we are heading toward another massive shakeup, that's part of Earth's story. Nature always finds a way to adapt, but instead of embracing that powerful message, the hosts were too busy chasing headlines. They didn't want calm, they wanted controversy. And Freeman? He wasn't about to give it to them. That's when Joy Behar jumped in and things got weird fast. Instead of asking something meaningful, she blurted out this half-baked line about how nature is tenacious and that if we just leave it alone, everything would be fine. It sounded like someone trying to sound deep without actually saying anything. Then she tossed Freeman a vague question about whether seeing all these species rise and fall changed his view on life. Freeman didn't miss a beat. He calmly said no. It didn't change his perspective, it just enhanced what he already knew. And then, with this dry little smirk, he dropped a line about driving an electric car. It was subtle, but you could almost hear him poking fun at how over the top the whole climate panic has become. You could tell he was holding back, trying to keep the conversation grounded while Joy was off spinning a disaster movie in her head. And the look on his face? That was the real gem. It said everything without saying much at, really? This is what we're doing right now? And here's the thing. This wasn't some random disagreement. It was a quiet shutdown of the fear-driven, overblown narrative that so many in the media keep pushing. Freeman wasn't being dismissive. He was being real. And The View? They had no idea how to handle that. Now let's zoom out for a second. This moment with Freeman wasn't just about one comment, it exposed a much bigger issue. The media, especially shows like The View, love pushing climate panic. You know the type. Dramatic warnings, terrifying predictions, end-of-the-world speeches that sound more like movie trailers than real science. Remember back in 2019 when over 11,000 scientists signed that public warning about untold suffering? Sounds terrifying, right? But dig a little deeper into their solutions and things start to sound more like a punishment than a plan. Sky-high carbon taxes, dropping GDP as a goal, cutting meat consumption, and even stabilizing the global population, which is just a fancy way of saying, let's stop people from having kids. Meanwhile, the very people pushing these ideas are flying first class across the globe, attending climate conferences while telling regular folks to stop grilling burgers. That's not science. That's hypocrisy. So when Freeman tossed out that smirk and mentioned his electric car, it wasn't just a clever moment, it was a statement. A polite but clear call out of the hysteria that's meant to scare, not to educate. And in just a few words, he exposed how disconnected this whole media narrative has become from common sense. But just when it started getting spicy, someone else decided it was their turn to speak, and things only got worse from there. Just as the energy shifted and Freeman was beginning to push back with some quiet truth, Sunny Hostin decided to pivot the conversation entirely, and not in a good way. Instead of staying with the environmental theme or asking anything remotely connected to Freeman's current work, she veered hard into a completely different topic: race politics. Of all the things she could have asked, she chose this. As some politicians try to erase Black history, you're making sure people don't forget, right? Then she brought up another documentary. Freeman had executive produced 761st about the first Black Tank Battalion in World War II. Now, was this an important film? Absolutely. Freeman was proud of it. It's a powerful story. But let's be honest, this question had nothing to do with why he was there that day. It felt like a desperate attempt to shift gears and manufacture a headline. Sunny wasn't following the conversation, she was chasing her own agenda. Freeman, always the professional, answered with grace. He talked about how, growing up, the only Black people he saw in movies were servants. He mentioned how that shaped his early view of the world. His words were real. But the way the question was delivered, it felt forced, like Sunny was trying to trap him into giving a soundbite she could use later. She didn't bother checking his past interviews either, because if she had, she would have known Freeman doesn't play the victim game. He's always said Black history is American history. That's it, period. But that simple truth didn't fit the script Sunny was trying to write. And that's where things really started to unravel. Because right after Freeman gave his answer, trying to keep the tone respectful and thoughtful, Sunny just sat there looking almost confused. Like she hadn't expected him to answer with that kind of clarity. She wanted emotion, she wanted outrage. Instead, she got facts and calm perspective. Then came the most bizarre moment of all. Joy Behar, who wasn't even the one being addressed, somehow looked more offended than anyone else on the panel. She wore that classic face like, how dare you not follow our narrative? It was awkward. It was performative. And honestly, it was kind of embarrassing. The look on Freeman's face said it all. He'd been through decades of real change in Hollywood. He'd seen the worst of it and the best of it. And now here he was, surrounded by people who claimed to care, yet couldn't even ask a decent question. It was like watching students try to lecture the professor. And right when it started getting really uncomfortable, when it looked like they might have to face some truth, Whoopi Goldberg stepped in to do some damage control. Classic move. She gave one of those vague, rambling interjections about how things are always in flux, whatever that was supposed to mean, and tried to smooth it over like nothing weird just happened. But by then, the damage was done. And the most unbelievable part? What they did next. They pulled the plug literally. Not long after that awkward derailed interview aired, the entire segment just disappeared. Vanished from The View's official YouTube channel like it never happened. No explanation. No highlight clips. Nothing. It was like they tried to wipe it from history, hoping no one would notice their mess. But of course, the internet never forgets. Thanks to tools like the Wayback Machine, the original video lives on. And the reason they likely tried to bury it? Simple. It was a total train wreck. They brought on Morgan Freeman, an actual legend with decades of experience, deep views on culture and science, and instead of listening, they pushed him into weird, divisive conversations and then panicked when he didn't say what they wanted to hear. They wanted drama. He gave them wisdom. And they couldn't handle it. It's honestly wild when you think about it. Lesser-known guests, some of whom have nothing meaningful to say, get full, uninterrupted segments on that show. But Freeman? They gave him barely 6 minutes, interrupted him constantly, then cut the interview short and buried it online like it was a mistake. This wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a clear sign of how out of touch that show has become. And what happened after this only made that clearer. Because Freeman didn't just let it go, he took his message somewhere much smarter, somewhere they couldn't control. After that disaster on The View, Morgan Freeman didn't stay silent. He didn't rant, he didn't throw shade on social media, he did something way more powerful. He went to the Oxford Union, and there, in front of a thoughtful audience, he laid it all out calmly, clearly, and without the interruptions. He addressed the exact same issues that Sunny and Joy tried to spin: race in Hollywood, representation, history. But unlike the messy chaos on The View, this time Freeman was given the space to speak. And what he said completely shut down the media narrative they tried to push on him. Freeman explained that decades ago, Hollywood made a major shift. Back in the 1970s, the industry embraced open casting, meaning actors were chosen for roles based on talent, not race. And when you look at today's screens, his point is obvious. Diversity is everywhere, not because of forced quotas, but because audiences respond to good stories and studios respond to money. He even said it straight: Hollywood doesn't see color, it sees green. That line hit hard, because it's true. A film directed by Ossie Davis, Cotton Comes to Harlem, made hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what Hollywood responds to success, not political lectures. This wasn't some feel-good soundbite, it was a fact-based breakdown from a man who lived the change, but none of this came out on The View. Because instead of asking real questions, they tried to score points and Freeman wasn't playing that game. What made Freeman's response so powerful both on The View and later at the Oxford Union wasn't just what he said, but how he said it. No yelling, no anger, no buzzwords. Just honesty, backed by experience. And that's exactly why it rattled them. Today, so many platforms survive on outrage. They depend on emotional explosions, viral moments, and audience reactions that feed the algorithm. Shows like The View have become less about real conversation and more about creating clips to stir people up. So when Freeman came in calm, clear, and unwilling to play along, it threw the entire rhythm of the show off balance. He didn't bite on the race baiting. He didn't panic over climate doom. He didn't serve up any hot takes. Instead, he brought something that's become rare on daytime television: actual perspective. And that's what made the moment feel so jarring. Freeman's presence highlighted just how hollow and performative these so-called serious discussions have become. Even in his subtle expressions-high's smirk, his pause, his measured tone, you could see it. He knew exactly what they were trying to do, and he calmly refused to give it to them. He wasn't being difficult, was being honest. And that honesty exposed the cracks in the show's foundation. They didn't just fumble a celebrity interview. They got caught trying to manufacture outrage in front of someone who's lived too long, seen too much, and knows exactly what that game looks like. And it made them look ridiculous. And that's the real shame in all of this. They had Morgan Freeman, a man who has seen Hollywood evolve from black and white stereotypes to powerful, diverse storytelling. A man whose voice has narrated both documentaries and cultural shifts. And they blew it. When Freeman is actually allowed to speak, his depth is undeniable. He doesn't just talk about history, he is a part of it. He's lived through it, shaped it, and reflected it on screen for decades. From the civil rights era to blockbuster films, from narrating Earth's story to breaking racial boundaries in Hollywood, he brings perspective that no soundbite can capture. And yet, the Viewa show that claims to champion voices and diverse perspectives gave him barely 6 chaotic minutes. They rushed through his appearance like he was some C-list guest promoting a pet project. No real questions, no meaningful discussion, just fluff, interruptions, and awkward pivots. Then they tried to bury the whole thing like it never happened. They didn't just fumble a rare opportunity, they erased it. But Freeman didn't need them. He went on to speak his truth elsewhere, without the drama, without the censorship, and without letting anyone twist his words. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.